Call the village board meeting to order. Today is Monday, April 5th, 2021. Sarah, can you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Amenta.
Here.
Trustee Carpenter.
Here.
Trustee Ursink.
Here.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Here.
Trustee Warren.
Here.
And it looks like Trustee Backhorse is just coming in. President Rosick.
Here.
Everyone is present.
Okay, great. Has the meeting been publicly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
Fabulous. Tonight we'll start with agenda item number 4, which is special order of business. 4A, consider reserve Class B liquor license for ML McKinley Investments LLC, doing business as La Rich and Pour Wine Lounge at 3575 North Oakland Avenue, Shorewood, 53211. Sarah.
Yes. So this evening, before you have a Class B liquor license for a wine bar located at 3575 North Oakland. JP&L reviewed the application at the March 15th meeting and voted 3-0 to approve the liquor license to the board. The one thing I will note before I turn it over to Trustee Carpenter is JP&L chair and to the applicant for any questions. At the time of the approval, they applied for what would be the last reserve liquor license. So at that time, we had 3 applications, 2 for regular liquor licenses, which were approved on March 15th by the village board. Since that approval, the license for ATK, which was going into the Hayek space, has actually declined their liquor license approval. They are no longer considering that space to utilize for the restaurant, so they will no longer be in need of the liquor license. La Rich and Pour has applied for the reserve, but they are eligible if the board so chooses to be granted the regular license instead of the reserve license. So noted that would be part of the discussion this evening. So any other questions? I'll actually turn it over to Trustee Carpenter.
And before Trustee Carpenter, I apologize. Is that because it's agendized as the reserve? Is there anything that needs to be done other than that?
I see not correct, Nathan?
Yeah, that's correct. If there are multiple licenses available, the municipality will issue the non-reserve one first, just pursuant to the code. So.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to decide as a board. We would just issue the one that's not the reserve.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Carpenter, would you like to give us a recap of JP&L?
Sure. So we had the applicant present at JP&L a couple of weeks ago, and we went through their business plan, how it would work within the community, what they were hoping to achieve within the business plan, and we felt like their description, which I thought was actually much more helpful for myself to really grasp, was like a cigar club, if you will, but it's wine. Excuse me. So that was helpful for myself, and I think the other trustees on the committee to sort of really understand the concept a little bit better and how it would work and who they were attracting. So we felt that it was a solid business plan and that we were excited to have them in Shorewood. I don't know if Trustee Ursink or Trustee Menta, you had anything else to add?
Nope. Trustee Menta, do you have anything? Okay. Well, thank you for that. And it was a 3-0 vote, correct? To recommend?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I turn it over to the applicant. Welcome. Would you like to say anything about your business concept?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Raquel McKinley. My wife is actually on her way home from work, so I'm kind of filling in right now. But just wanted to apologize for missing the last one. And I know there were a couple of questions that I guess you had of the business plan. If you had those questions now, we can address those. Other than that, be up to you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. I will open it up to the board for questions, and then I can ask mine, Trustee Carpenter.
I was just going to clarify that. I think that those questions were from the Plan Commission meeting where they were talking about parking. Trustee Stokebrand was there. if I remember correctly.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think that was one of the concerns was the parking. I guess, in an ideal world, if people are drinking, they won't be driving, right? But I guess that was, if I recall correctly, that is one of the concerns we had at the Plan Commission.
Was it addressed?
No, there was no representative there.
Okay, thank you so much. Would you like to say a few words about how the parking will be addressed?
Yep. So as far as parking, the area that we're looking to have our business, there is off-site or off-street parking. It's the old Harry's tailor shop. So that would be accessible to our customers. Most of the other surrounding businesses are closed during our normal business hours. So that parking lot there should be ample amount of parking space for us.
And so would that be the parking lot that is between the laundromat and the exercise coach?
It's more or less adjoining to the hair salon that's there.
So it'd be on the north side of the building.
Correct.
Okay, so you have a certain number of spots there that will be for rich and poor.
So that parking lot is open for all businesses. We've spoken over with the management. They're aware we don't expect to have more than 15 and 20 people in that business at once. So maybe 10 cars would be in that parking lot at a time maximum. So I don't know if that answers.
Does the proprietor of the building, does that proprietor own that parking lot?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have questions for the applicant? Trustee Warren.
I think I can make a motion if I can move to approve the application for a Class B intoxicating liquor license for ML McKinley Investments LLC, DBA The Rich and Poor Wine Lounge, 3575 North Oakland Avenue, Shorewood, Wisconsin 53211, and to direct the clerk to issue the license upon approval of occupancy with planning and development.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Warren, a second by Trustee Bockhorst. I do have one question, and maybe it's for Sarah. So for wine bars, or maybe for the applicant, is there any alcohol or liquor being proposed for the site, or is it strictly wine and champagne?
We are only looking to serve wine and champagne, no malt beverages or any other alcoholic beverages.
Thank you. And so, Sarah, I always ask this question. The law reads that you can get a wine license if you have a certain percentage, without the liquor license.
Correct. So they would have to have a full service restaurant. And then the idea is the portion of your bill would mostly be dinner or food and not liquor. So it's more there for the places that want to serve a bottle of wine or so. But yeah, they would not qualify for the Class C wine license.
Is it, just for my clarification in the future, is it a certain percentage of sales that have to be from food?
It would be more designated by the full service kitchen. And then the Department of Revenue would kind of be a follow-up with them to kind of really see, if a wine bar serving food isn't still a restaurant, they would have to be more restaurant based, right? And then they would be serving wine is really what the idea would be. So they're really more looking just to do the wine portion, not the restaurant.
Okay, and you do have appetizers, sir? Is that correct? You're serving appetizers?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, are you serving appetizers?
Yeah, appetizers and like little entrees that go along with wine, like light refreshments.
Okay, and so it doesn't qualify for the full service kitchen, correct?
No.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? I think I saw Trustee Stokebrand.
Yeah, remembering more from the Plan Commission meeting, there was some discussion about concerns about possible noise because it is all apartment buildings above this location, correct?
Correct.
And so was there any option like you might have any live music ever or anything like that?
That is not in our plans of for now. We haven't even discussed that. We were looking for more of the, smoother, lighter, like jazz wine type of ordeal.
Okay, just to let you know that there was a discussion about that. I think the feeling was, and the hope was, that because it's the same landlord or property owner, that if the residents of the apartments had a problem with noise, the property owner would contact you.
Right. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with no further questions, we'll take the roll.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
President Rosick.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We wish you
Thank
all
you.
the luck in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks
I'll
for
follow
sharing.
up with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes that agenda item. So we'll move on to 4B, consider Triangle Park Plan and implementation steps. This is coming from recommendation of the Parks and, is it Open Space? Parks and Commission?
Still the Parks Commission until this summer.
Till the summer. Okay, Tyler.
Good evening. Thanks, President Rosick. I just wanted to go through a brief presentation since I think the memo in the packet summarizes some of the general questions about the proposal. Just started back in 2019. The village received a few inquiries about Triangle Park and how that space would be utilized for the future. The Parks Commission decided they wanted to coordinate an open meeting that actually took place right at Triangle Park. We had just over 50 people attend that meeting. And some of the main themes I captured in the memo. And basically, no one wanted any major changes. They like that space as it is, just primarily flexible for open play. But there were a few things that they wanted addressed with the park. Due to 2020 and COVID, really the only main things we addressed were just some routine lawn maintenance and some weeding practices for the park that we could do internally. For 2021, we were able to meet again with the Parks Commission to review the plan a little bit further. We also met with the Shorewood Women's Club, who donated the flagpole a few decades ago. And one of the comments or the themes from the open meeting was to open this, the park space more and potentially relocate the flag. Upon further investigation with DPW and that, it's probably not likely that we will be able to save that flagpole. So we still have an alternative plan that I showcased to you in the memo that if we received new funding from a community group, or if we allocated funding for a future budget, that we could have a spot designated for a flagpole that would remain at Triangle Park. So I just wanted to communicate that in the memo and show that that is still an option that the Parks Commission would review and work with staff. But there's some, the main reason we're taking it to the board tonight is with some of the changes, there are some funds that would be needed that currently are unbudgeted. So we would be asking for board approval tonight. We very well could take this to 2022 as a budget request for that budget. But the primary reason we thought it made logistical sense to consider it tonight or for 2021 was the fact that we are doing the sidewalk replacement program this year. And we thought it would be a lot more cost efficient for us to include that in that contract rather than have someone come out next year and just come out to do a few concrete pours at the park. So that's why we're bringing it to you tonight. And in the fiscal note, we mentioned that that expense would be covered in that line item, which I talked with Mark on as far as how we would account that. So tonight we're just asking for your board's feedback and approval on that plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Can you just state what the amount is that would be allocated and what line, just so the public public knows.
Yeah, I can bring it up here.
Motion says 20,000.
Yeah, so it'd be up to 20,000. So that's our estimate at this point. It's an up to number. So we want to exceed that. And the main cost would be the concrete walkway that we would connect the park and have some concrete slabs for the benches. So we're also improving the accessibility to the benches. And that would be account line 400, 3470, 56,310, which is our capital sidewalks regular maintenance line item. And then just wanted to, from a fiscal impact perspective, mention that some of the plantings that we would be doing, which would be taking some funds that were generated through donations from the Shorewood Garden Tour that we still have. And then we're working with Shorewood Connects on applying for an AARP grant that would cover the costs for new benches in the park.
Thank you. And just one last question, where are the funds coming from? Are they coming from, are we not doing certain sidewalks, or are we putting additional funds in?
Yeah, it would be additional funds.
From?
I mean, if you want to say, I know Mark doesn't like it when I say reserves, but it would be reserves. So it'd be the understanding that there would be other capital projects that would be coming under, which I think for some of the capital projects we've already done, that we have a pretty good feeling that we'll be able to accommodate that.
So like the alley project that came under, it drops, might drop.
Yeah, that would be an example. Or I know for myself, I'm finishing up on the security camera stuff, which will come, I think about 5,000-10,000 under as well. So, you know, with those type of capital related projects.
Okay. So excess funds and capital reserves, and we don't.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after the trustees go, if someone can just tell me that balance, the existing balance. Okay, Trustee Carpenter.
Yeah, I just was wondering if you could clarify, because there's the two drawings. So there's the one with the the flagpole kind of at the point. And then the second drawing shows the flagpole is gone. And I'm just a little bit confused. I know you said that we would need a donation to replace the flagpole. So which drawing is correct in the packet?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. The plan that the Parks Commission passed was the large drawing. That's the attachment. That's the second drawing that doesn't have the flagpole. So this is with the understanding that we're not able to save the flagpole. And at this current moment, we have zero funds that are committed to a new flagpole. If the board tonight provided the direction that either A, we continue to reach out to community groups to, you know, search for new funding for a donation for a flagpole, or B, that we want to commit funds for like the 2022 budget, for instance, then what we would do, Trustee Carpenter, is go to that image that we have in the memo itself. And then just in that bottom corner of Triangle Park, the plan would change to showcase that as the is kind of what the setting would be around the flagpole. Does that make sense?
Isn't there another option of using capital reserves? I'm sorry, you named all the options except utilizing capital reserves.
Yes, we could. Yes, if you wanted to do that too as part of the motion, you could do that. I mean, for another flagpole and that, you would probably have to add in another. I know Leanne and Joel are on the call, and they can, if they have a different thought. I think we initially said 5,000 or so for a flagpole. So if we wanted to you know, increase the do not exceed number, I think we would want to at least add another 5,000 onto that.
Thank you, Trustee Carpenter. Go ahead.
That was my question. What was the approximate cost of a new flagpole? So you're thinking about 5,000?
Yeah, if I remember my conversation with Joel, that's it. Like I said, if Leanne or Joel, if I'm misremembering that number, let me know. But I believe it was near the $5,000 number.
Leanne, Joel, can someone confirm around that number?
That matches my recollection, but I can't confirm that at this point.
Okay, because I know I would,
I just try to understand a ballpark number,
okay,
but
thank you.
thank you.
Anything further, trustee Carpenter?
No, thank you.
Okay, trustee Ursink and then trustee Stokebrand.
I just want to thank you guys. This is a fantastic plan. Triangle Park is a kitty corner for my house, so we spend a lot of time over there. And while I think all the neighbors are all appreciative of the donation from the Women's Club. I think that there's a lot of families that are going to really appreciate the new green space. It gives the kids a lot more room to play in that area, and everybody's just really excited about that. So you guys done a really great job with this, and really excited to see this plan move forward. A question that I had is, just kind of thinking, I was thinking about the park and the new the updates to it. It'd be fun once we're all done with COVID to have music in that area, to have like somebody come out and play music, and the space is really great for it. I think people can, people from the neighborhood can kind of fill in on that green grass. What are the thoughts about putting power out there? Is that totally undoable, or is there a way we can put just a simple power box out there with regular voltage? Is that doable?
You can certainly do that. I have absolutely no idea of any type of cost to estimate at this point. The biggest issue would be where we would get the power drop from. There's no village facilities anywhere in that neighborhood. So I think it would be involved, and I think it might be expensive, but it's pretty much it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it if it's that expensive. If there's something close by, I haven't seen anything. So if it's expensive, then I would say it's probably not a great idea. But I do like the plan, and I'd look forward to making the motion here if I can. I know there's some other trustees that want to talk though.
If you're okay with just waiting.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, no problem. Trustee Stokebrand.
Thank you. So just to be clear, the $20,000 includes the large diagram. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there's 3 benches, and then it's got bench pads. And then is that the blue? The blue is a bench pad. Is that, I don't know what that is.
The bench pads are the rectangles with the colored in rectangles are the benches themselves that are illustrated in there.
Right.
What's in blue would be the perennial beds.
Oh, that's the perennial beds. Okay, because for some reason I thought the perennial beds were going to be in the middle of the grass, and I thought, no, that can't be right.
Yeah, so the perennial beds are the blue. Yeah.
Good.
There was a lot of confusion on this drawing, even in our household. Everybody thought like, oh, we got the flagpole's gone, but now we've got perennial beds in the middle of the.
It was kind of like you started with the story on one end of the chairs, and by the time you got to the end of the chairs, okay, super. All right. And so I just want to make sure, are we getting as much green space as possible? Because I think that for a pocket park to have, all that grass is the critical thing. But if this is what they've come up with, and then so we'd be taking off the small diagram, because if you throw in that little triangle of the flagpole bed and 2 more benches, I honestly think for the size of the park, it'd be too much. And I like the big plan, just the way it is. And the other thing that kind of occurs to me about flags is, when they're tattered and torn and who takes them down. I live near Atwater. And so I sometimes think, oh my goodness, out of respect for the flag, that flag needs to come down. Who's in charge of taking the flags down? And I honestly think it's maybe a good place to not have a flag. Do we know, like
DPW is actually responsible for the flags at public buildings. Atwater is a unique case because of the location of that flag and how that pole was designed. We actually need the electrician's bucket truck to get in there to pull the flag down and replace it. We cannot do that during the winter months because of snow cover. So that is typically why we pull the flag during winter months. But yeah, we go through a lot of flags at Atwater because of the lake breezes. They're tough on flags for sure.
Okay, and so is my understanding then the $20,000 does not include the benches, is that correct?
That's correct. But yeah, as I mentioned, that would be, we're working with
The AARP.
Vashti, who's with the Shorewood Connects on some grant funding for some of those benches.
And so how much of this concrete, is it basically the cross piece that connects from Olive to Kenmore? Is that the concrete piece that would be part of the sidewalk replacement?
Correct.
Okay, and so they'd form it up and everything, the contractor would?
Correct, unless Leanne, you wanted to clarify anything with that point.
The contractor would site it and frame it and do the pour?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, yeah, I'm in support of this. It looks great. It'll be a nice, and a gem for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stokbrand. Trustee Ursink, did you have a question?
Yeah, just one more question. Just knowing this piece, this park, it gets flooded pretty routinely. I see that there is note of that in here. Is that as part of the budget or the proposed budget going to go to maybe grading that a little bit better so it's not constantly flooding?
Leanne, do you want to speak to that? I know you and I spoke with part of the plan, or that I know that part of the plan would also help to try to address some of those areas.
Our first effort is going to be to install drain tile along the interior edge of the sidewalk. Because yes, there's some drainage issues there. We have lots of issues over winter with icing of those walks and ponding water. But we believe that drain tile installation, which would be potentially done by our staff, would go a long way toward alleviating that issue.
Okay. And then one other question I had is who's going to take care of the beds, the perennial beds? Is that Parks? Or are we just going to identify people in the community, neighbors, residents that can help take care of those?
We've added that to our preliminary maintenance, our seasonal and our horticulture staff.
Oh, great.
Thank you, Trustee Ursink. I have a question. I'm going to ask my questions, and then I'm going to go to Trustee Stokbrand again. We have, I believe that Horse Paver Alley wasn't done this year. Was that correct? Was that the one that we decided to eliminate this year?
No.
Green Alley, no.
Our green, all of our green alleys we have 2 green alleys being constructed.
Okay, so all the MMSD money for green infrastructure, the grant money is accounted for this year or next year or whenever it's all accounted for?
It is not all currently committed. We have some in reserve with the expectation that much of it will be used in Hubbard Park parking lot.
Okay.
And potentially the police department parking lot at some point.
So I'm just wondering if we've considered, because of the flooding, porous pavers or porous concrete here for the sidewalks that go within the park.
No, we have not considered. I would not recommend that.
And can you just tell me why?
Because porous concrete is not a proven material, and I just wouldn't recommend any type of porous paver for a pedestrian footpath.
Okay, just alleys.
Correct.
Okay, I have never heard that before. Okay, I would like, I'm not going to make the motion. I know Trustee Ursink wanted to make the first motion, and I'm going to let him do that. But if it's not included, I will make an amendment. I do think the flagpole is very important to the neighborhood. And please correct me if I'm wrong, if you've heard differently, Tyler. But $5,000 to replace the American flag to me is worth it, since we do have capital reserves. And I would, before we take a vote, like to know what our capital reserves balance is, if Mark's on the line. Trustee Stokbrand.
Thank you. I just wanted, it's a different item, but I just wanted to confirm the perennials here. We're talking slow growth, hardy. It'll be species that we're already planting elsewhere in the village. This will be nothing exotic. And so the cost should not be, it should be low maintenance, that sort of thing, a daylily or something like that. We're not, right?
And has designed it for use of native perennials.
Excellent. Thank you.
Trustee Ursink.
Tyler.
Oh,
If I just may, before the motion's made, just President Rosick, to your question, Mark's not on the line, so we don't have that number. I do want to thank our foreman, Ben Habenack, though. Ben has done just a terrific job. And all of you know on the call how many priorities right now DPW is juggling. So I couldn't thank them more for making time for the Parks Commission and myself to work on this initiative. And lastly, I know Jenny Vulpes is on the call, our Parks Commission chair. She does a terrific job with the Parks Commission. So I just want to thank her and the rest of the Parks Commission on this initiative.
thank you. I would like to make a request for the future boards, and I make it all the time. If you're asking us to dedicate money from a certain fund, it would be very helpful for staff to know the balance of that fund. I know in budget, it was very low when we were making changes during budget season. And so it makes me nervous as a legislator to not know what money is in that account. We've been warned by Mark that it shouldn't go below a certain number. So just please note that. I make that request a lot. Trustee Ursink.
Yeah, I'd like to move to approve the Triangle Park design and authorize staff to utilize up to $20,000 for Triangle Park improvements.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Trustee Ursink and a second by Trustee Bockhorst. I would like to make an amendment. So can you repeat the motion, please, Sarah, and then I can make the amendment or proposal.
Sarah's off the call because with the election being tomorrow. So I told her that I would help with the clerk duties tonight. So the original motion was to approve the Triangle Park design and authorize staff to utilize up to $20,000 for Triangle Park improvements.
Can I amend the motion or propose an amendment that would change the amount to $25,000 and include the flagpole?
I'll second that. And I appreciate that, President Rozak, as a vet.
Thank you, Trustee Bockhorst. So it's a motion by President Rozak, a second by Trustee Bockhorst. Trustee Carpenter.
Is it possible to know the fund balance? When would we know that? I mean, I don't, I would really, I think that this looks wonderful and I live personally close to there. So it isn't that I don't want us to move forward with this. I really want us to. I just, I just want to know approximately what is in that balance. I think it's fine if I remember correctly, but I don't know. I have a lot going on, so I might not remember it accurately.
Sure. I mean, I can tell you I don't have that number tonight. Anytime we do a memo, we follow up with Mark on that. I did talk with Mark about the fact that we would be using capital funding for this. He did not express any concerns with that, just knowing with the few capital projects that we've done coming under budget that we would be fine. I will talk with him tomorrow morning about in the future, how we can put that number on, anything that's using reserves for capital items. It's just a matter of, when things are coming in, you don't really know if a project's under until it's fully completed, and then I think he can update that number. But like I said, I don't want to speak on behalf of Mark as far as what he can and can't do. So I'll make sure that we'll get some kind of follow-up of how he could do that for future memos.
Okay, that'd be great. And also, I mean, just knowing that you've had that conversation with him and that he's comfortable with this, that makes me feel a lot better. But I do think that would be helpful in the future. So thank you for that, Tyler.
Thank you, Trustee Carpenter. Trustee Bockhorst.
Thank you. We could make the motion contingent on the fund balance not dropping dangerously low where it affects our bond rating for when we go out for borrowing for big projects. It doesn't sound like we need to, but it might be in our best interest as a board and due diligence. And I wouldn't want to make just necessarily the flagpole contingent upon that, President Rozak, but I would be open to a friendly amendment if we wanted to at least ensure that we're not, we are fiduciaries, and ensure that we are not dipping dangerously low, given that we don't have the finance director here to validate especially with the additional 5,000 as well. So
I just want to let the board know, I do not believe that it affects the bond rating for capital reserves. I think our general reserves does, if it dips below 30%. But for capital reserves, I think we were at like 30,000 one time. One time we were at 200,000 during budget. So that I don't believe affects our bond rating. So I'm not sure that we need to make that, but it is definitely a thought. Trustee Ursing.
I think, talking about this design and the flagpole, obviously there's no offense to the American flag or anything like that. I just feel like this is such a small space, and the community would appreciate as much green space as possible. So keeping it there and creating this new structure is essentially what we had. And, and I think, the more green space there, the better. Just somebody that utilizes that park all the time. I think, it'd be nice to maximize the amount of green space there. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I guess, Tyler, to his point, is the flagpole, is there another spot for it? That the residents, and I see the chair, Commissioner, Parks Commission's chair here, and maybe she can answer that. Ms. Volpa, was there any discussion on relocation of the flagpole rather than replacing it in the same spot?
Yeah, well, I think the situation is that they think that the flagpole is not going to be able to withstand the act of removing it and possibly replacing it. So there was some discussion that there's a possibility that maybe the women's club, this is just a light discussion with the women's club. Maybe they would do another flagpole, but it would be in a different location. It was pretty much across the board. Nobody wanted the flagpole anymore in Triangle Park. It's such a small space. And when we had our meeting with all the neighbors, they were all very excited by the fact that they could actually have all that open space in order to play games and to have open space. They wanted park benches, but yeah, the flagpole was sort of like, oh, good, we can get rid of the flagpole. But I do know that the women's club has had a little discussion, not that this is part of this discussion, but anyway.
Thank you. I guess the question is, I do feel strongly about replacing the flag. So if it's not in Triangle Park, was there any discussion on just rather than eliminating the flag in the neighborhood, was there any discussion of ulterior locations?
Yeah, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
There was some talk that possibly by the bridge that goes over Capitol Drive, that there would be a flagpole that could possibly go there. There's more room. There's certainly more eyes that would land on the flag. I don't know that it's for sure, though. So,
is this something the Parks Commission could take up if the funds were budgeted? Finding a location.
I suppose. It's when we're in open spaces, Tyler, maybe that's something that we can discuss.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Trustee Amenta.
Yeah, since everyone was asking, in the 2021 budget, the projected fund balance in our capital projects fund is $484,678. So we're projecting to have that at the end of the year if we spend everything as budgeted. And we know that, for example, alleys are coming in lower. So every time something comes in lower, that increases that number. Anyway, 20,000 is not going to make or break the capital projects fund. Secondly, I agree that that park is a great play space, and that as much as the flag was a great historical thing to have there, been there I think for 40 or 50 years. It's to me, the seeing kids playing there and playing frisbee and all the activities they do, I think a better use of that space is as play space.
Thank you, Trustee Menta. Saw two other hands up. Is there anybody? I don't see them now. So, okay. And just my last comment on that. I agree with both trustees that spoke on this and the Chair's Commission, the Park Commission Chair, that it's better utilized for people to play. I still stand behind the amendment that I proposed, that I do believe that I would not like to take a flag down in the neighborhood and not replace it. And so I'm okay with keeping the amendment as is and voting on it, and also working with Parks Commission, Parks and Open Space Commission, or staff to find an ulterior location. Any other comments before we take a vote on the amendment? trustee Bachhorst, and then trustee Stokebrand.
Thank you. Trustee Stokebrand was first, but
Go ahead, trustee Bachhorst, and then trustee Stokebrand.
okay. Yeah, so I understand. So I used to live on the west side. The majority of the time I've lived in Shorewood. And I will say that one of the reasons I moved to the east side is because we do have a lot more open spaces and a lot more parkland. I know Estabrook Park is part of Shorewood, but you do have to cross busy Wilson Drive to get there. So I can understand that, you know, it might be nice to have additional open green space for people to play and do what they want. But at the same time, this is the entire village's park. And the American Legion post is no longer there. And we have a lot of men and women that have served their country in this village and that really do appreciate these historic things such as the flag. And as we know, they did replace the flag over by Kathy's, down the street from Kathy on the lake at Atwater recently. And this is something that a lot of people feel strongly about. So I would be remiss if we didn't at least have a broader discussion if we are going to remove a flagpole. I understand that there was discussion at the Parks Committee, but the Parks Committee is a volunteer committee, and they're not elected, and they may not hear from the majority of residents like we do when we make a pretty monumental decision, such as removal of a flag post. And I know that it would be great to see it in a more visible area, as someone else mentioned tonight, but that's a policy decision and not one that we've had. And that involves a lot of different aspects as far as relocation. And we haven't even begun those discussions. So it's, you know, we can always say it would, just like we always hear, it would be better to have a blank restaurant in Sud space or this and that, or a bookstore or a hardware store. Well, again, those are bigger decisions that aren't in front of us. So I do support the amendment. And I do think that at least funding it. So if we want to go the route of taking it down, I think that's a different discussion at a different day, but I'm not comfortable making that decision for the entire village on very minimal information and kind of anecdotal at best. So thank you.
Thank you, trustee Bachhorst. Trustee Stokebrand.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that it seemed like if we did want to put the flagpole back, they had a plan that it was 2 more benches and a perennial bed. And to, you know, echo what other people have said, it's such a small space. We should just let it be a green space, I think. And to answer another point about not having a flag there, we do now have the police station on the west side of the village, which has a flag. So, you know, that wasn't there before, and that's less than 2 blocks away, I think. So we have a flag presence on the west side. I'm prepared to vote against the amendment, but for the motion.
Okay, thank you, trustee Stokebrand. Is there any other comments? I'll just make my one last plea. I do think it's important that we replace the flagpole. I will be voting for the amendment. I'm not sure, as stated, I believe if you vote for the amendment, the budget amount for the flagpole will be there for someone to decide where that flagpole can go. And it ensures that there will be a replacement. It doesn't necessarily ensure, it doesn't say that it has to be in that park. Is that correct, Tyler, the way it's stated? It doesn't have to be an exact replacement in the same location.
Right now in the amendment, no, we don't state specifically it needs to be there.
Okay, thank you so much. If there's no further questions, go ahead, Tyler. Oh, trustee Carpenter.
Sorry, can you say that again? So if you, just to clarify, so if you're voting for the amendment, does it necessarily have to be in Triangle Park? Like if we are voting for the amendment for the allocation of funds for the flagpole, you know, could it be over by the bridge with the Oak Leaf Trail?
That's my understanding. Tyler, is there anything that needs to be specified?
Yeah, because right now all the amendment reads is increasing the allocation more by $5,000 to replace or for another new flagpole. So the amendment never specified as of right now that it needed to be in Triangle Park.
And the original motion is approving the plan in front of us, correct? Meaning there is no flagpole shown.
That is correct.
So you're approving the plan in front of you with no flagpole and an additional 5,000 for replacement of the flagpole somewhere. That's my understanding.
That's my understanding too. So we're clear.
And as long as that goes in the minutes to make sure it, either way.
Yep.
Does that answer your question, Trustee Carpenter?
Yeah, because I mean, I think taking a flagpole down without having a replacement is not ideal, but I also think having this space, I think about like my own kids and running and whacking into things, having that more open space is something that I think is more desirable, and not having the flagpole in another location in the village. Like I really do like the idea of it near the bridge and near the Shorewood sign, and I think that makes a lot more sense, where there's you're not worried about a kid that's going to literally run into it as they're playing catch. So
okay,
thank you. That helped.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Tyler, can you reread the amendment and then take the roll?
Okay. Yeah, so just to be clear, this is only on approving the amendment, which states that to amend the motion to increase the total by $5,000 to fund a new flagpole. Okay. We'll start with Trustee Ursink.
Okay, so just to clarify, we're not talking about the flagpole there. We're just talking about a flagpole in general. $5,000 for a flagpole in general, not at Triangle Park.
Correct.
I won't vote for it if it's at Triangle Park, but if it's anywhere other than Triangle Park, I will vote for it.
It's not in the plan that. Thank you. So the plan that's being approved tonight, or at least the motion that's being approved, does not have a flagpole in Triangle Park. This just allocates $5,000 for a flagpole somewhere.
Got it. Then I'm all for that. Yes.
Okay. Trustee Stokebrand.
No.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Amenta.
No.
Okay. Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
President Rozek.
Aye.
Okay. That amendment passes 5-2. So now the new motion would read to approve the Triangle Park design and authorize staff to utilize up to $20,000 for Triangle Park improvements, and increase another $5,000 to fund a new flagpole.
Okay. No comments or questions. So can you please take the roll?
Yes. Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
President Rozek.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We can now move on to agenda item number 5, which is the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda may be acted upon by one motion. If in the judgment of any village board member, a consent agenda item needs discussion, the item can be placed in the items removed from the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to accept or to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bockhorst, second by Trustee Warren. Are there any items that should be removed?
I'd like to remove E.
Okay. Any other removals? So the motion would read, approve the consent agenda with the removal of item E. And there is a second. So if there's no questions on that, we'll take a vote on the consent agenda, correct? With removal of item E.
Yeah. Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
President Rozek.
Aye. So now we'll take up, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll now take up item 5 Trustee
Yeah,
Ursink.
and honestly, I just wanted to get a quick update to see how that process is going, Tyler. It sounds like you have the RFP out and your proposals are coming in soon, right? April 7th or May 7th is proposals. So you issued the RFP, what, today or tomorrow it's going out?
Yeah, so this is the action for you as a board to agree for the RFP to go out. So I'll issue it out tomorrow.
Got it.
Reaching out to other municipalities in the North Shore and actually Milwaukee County. I have about 3 or 4 already vendors that I've reached out to that would be able to do this work. So hopefully, I'm hoping to at least get a minimum of 3 proposals. And then hopefully we can get more too as I continue to promote that. So it'll go out tomorrow and we'll have a better idea how many people submit proposals by the end of the month in early January or early May.
Fantastic. And just being the trustee kind of liaison on this project, could you just keep me in the loop on how that's all going? Just to send me an update.
Yes, you and we have a few staff that will serve on the selection committee for that. So probably in the next, once I send it out about 2 weeks later, I'm going to have some updates. And then almost every week we'll have some ongoing updates.
Perfect. Okay, cool. That's all I had. Thank you.
I did have a question during the agenda meeting, and I would like the other board members to hear. We did have agenda management software discussion earlier on, I think in the year, this year, maybe it was last year, I can't remember. And it did have a video component of it that came with one of the preferred vendor, I think, or one of the vendors that had submitted. Can you just update the rest of the board on how, if we approve this tonight, how that would affect agenda management when it comes back to the board?
Sure. Yeah, so what we would do is we go through the interview process and then we would inform those vendors of the discussions that we've had on agenda management. I'm hoping that a few of them will be familiar with the technology that some of those agenda management vendors utilized and can speak to. So I would almost see that as like an interview question that would help us make that determination. And then as we make the improvements, we would just want to keep in mind with that it would be able to function appropriately with the functionality that agenda management softwares would be able to utilize. Part of the agenda management had video and and audio technology. So these improvements should help to that even more. But that would be the questions and the ways that we would integrate it in the selection process.
And they would be allowed the opportunity, all vendors that had submitted and that would be interviewed would be allowed the opportunity to adjust their costs appropriately.
Oh, in the original selection process for the agenda management? Yeah, I'm sure that would be something that we would reach out to them and talk with them on.
My only concern was that if we're selecting people from the applicant pool, if we're selecting interviews based on cost, and this would adjust the cost to some of those proposals, that those people, all the applicants have a chance to resubmit their costs based on the new information. Okay, that would happen. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve item 5E?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Trustee Warren made the motion, Trustee Ursink did the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and take the roll.
Yep. Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
President Rozak.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. We are now on to agenda item number 6, which is, nope, we just did that. Agenda item number 7, public hearings, which there are none tonight. So number 8, citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens that have registered to be heard tonight?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised at the moment.
Okay, and no one registered ahead of time.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll give it about 30 seconds. If anyone would like to speak on a matter not on the agenda, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, We will move on to the next agenda item, which is new business 9A. Consider the award of contract for 2021 sidewalk replacement program. Leanne.
Good evening. As you know, the village conducts a sidewalk replacement program for the last decade or so in odd calendar years. We received 5 bids for this year's project, with the low bid being submitted by DC Burbach. Staff recommends the award of contract to DC Burbach. As you will recall, we added grinding to the program in 2019. That work will be done under a separate contract. It is not considered public construction by definition under state statute, so that work does not have to be bid. And in any case, we would keep that amount under $25,000. So that work, that contract will be issued separately under our current purchasing policy that can be approved by myself or my designee. We currently have an agreement with Interstate Sawing for that work. But the item before you this evening is the award of contract for the concrete replacement. And as I mentioned, we would be recommending that be awarded to DC Burbach. As you know, that the work is assessed back to the abutting property owner. We anticipate that the notices of assessment will be issued so we will have a conversation with the contractor after the award of contract to determine their work schedule. Then the notices of assessment would be issued according to state statute. Those must go out a minimum of 20 days before the work can commence. So that'll be time based on contractor's schedule. But it's our hope that that work will commence this spring. We will find out after that conversation.
Thank you. I have a question, but I think I saw trustee, was it Carpenter's hand? Did you have a question? No. Anybody else have questions on the board? Trustee Menta.
How does the cost per square foot compare to what we charged in 19, just so people have a general idea of what is it per square?
I believe the bid price is actually similar. We will be incorporating the cost for the field inspection into that actual square foot assessment. At this time, I don't know what that cost will be.
Is that new?
No, we've done that for the last several years.
It'll be like I think it was around 300 a square last time, wasn't it?
That sounds about right. Yes.
Okay, just so people have an idea, because it's hard to tell from the square footage, what that cost is.
Right. A typical stone in Shorewood is 6 by 6. Some are 5 by 6. So you take either 30 or 36 times that number plus some additional cost for the inspection work.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, so I will state this as I always do about sidewalk construction and shaving. My one question is, can these contractors, if we did do the RFP next time for shaving, can they perform that activity, even though we this time have put it as a separate contract? Is it possible that they could do that under the same contract?
Typically, concrete replacement contractors don't do grinding work or shaving work. We get the best price and the best product if they are separate contracts.
We've never done it together. So
last year, or I'm sorry, not last year, in 2019, we bid it that way and asked the concrete replacement contractor to do the work. And it was quite expensive, substantially more expensive than it will be this year.
And did we take it out then because it was way more expensive before we executed that?
That's why we are looking at doing it separately, yes, to save those additional costs.
So we left it in last time, but this time we're separating it. Is that correct?
We didn't leave it in. That was the first year that we did that work.
But we paid it more expensively because it was under the same contract.
Yes.
We executed that contract. Okay. the only reason that I mention it to the board for the next time it comes around, I won't be here, but the intent of the sidewalk shaving is to, you want motivation to do that because it saves costs in the long run so that your sidewalk as a resident won't have to be replaced as often. And therefore you actually, because we specially assess back to the resident for sidewalk replacement, the resident gets that break. So you want motivation for us to do the sidewalk grinding. What I always found troubling was we pay for sidewalk grinding as the village. And so we don't have the motivation. We don't get any cost benefit necessarily from doing that. Whereas if the resident is directly, if it's all coming either from the village or from the resident, the same funding mechanism, then you'll see why people would be motivated to do the shaving more. So that's the intent of my understanding of sidewalk shaving, was to save money in the long run. But instead, for some reason, we voted a long time ago to pay for sidewalk shaving. Am I correct, Leanne, through village, or do we specially assess for sidewalk shaving?
We do not we cannot specially assess for the grinding or the shaving because it is not defined as public construction. It's a maintenance activity. You cannot assess for a maintenance activity.
Okay, even if it's under the same contract.
Correct. It's the action, not the contract.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Trustee Stokbrand.
Sorry, I'm clicking. So I just had one complaint from a resident about the vendor that we had in 2019. I believe that was the contract for the previous grinding, shaving, about the quality of the work, the workers, that there were still trip hazards after they were done. But that's not what we're voting on tonight. I just wanted to make sure that will that come up to us again as a separate contract, or is that something because of the cost involved?
Will what come up?
The maintenance.
The contract for shaving.
That will not come back to the board, no.
And why?
Okay.
Because under the purchasing policy, it does not meet requirements for board approval. It meets requirements for staff approval.
And you've already
administratively.
And I believe you mentioned you selected the vendor for that this year, right?
That is correct, and we did that based on quality and costs.
Okay, so is it the same one from 2019? Because this.
No, it is not.
Okay, so you're aware of the concerns they had 2 years ago?
Yes. If you have if there is still a specific concern out there, please forward me the address and we'll make sure we address it.
Thank you.
Trustee Carper and then Trustee Ursink.
So just in 2019, there were a lot of slabs that were first identified and then were sort of taken off the list. So is it the construction manager that's going to make sure that that does not happen again? How do we make sure that we're accurately bidding for the number of squares this time around?
You approved a modified criteria in 2019, so we will be using that criteria to mark stones for replacement, and they will be marked once, and that marking will meet the criteria. So we do not at all anticipate the issues that we had in 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Standards. Trustee Ursink and then Warren.
I just want to say that, the grinding, while I think it's cost effective, it also, I think it doesn't look great in the village. We are such a walkable community, and I think so many of the slabs, I have one in front of my house that was just ground down and it looks awful, so hopefully over time with weathering that'll go away. But there's just, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's cost effective, but it just doesn't look all that great. So I don't know if it was the specific company or what, but I know the ones in front of my house just look awful. So.
Thank you, Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I think it's good discussion. I think I'm ready to make a motion though, and I move the award of a unit price contract for the 2021 sidewalk replacement program to DC Burbach in the amount of $256,035 and no cents.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Trustee Warren, second by Trustee Carpenter. Leanne, going on Trustee Carpenter's question, we change the standards or the criteria that would lessen the amount of squares that we identify as replacement. But the ones that were identified in 2019 that we didn't get to. So how do we ensure that those, which they met a little bit of a higher standard in 19, but we didn't replace them, how do we ensure that those make the list for this go around?
They will not be in this year's program. The program is defined geographically, so we are in a different area. Everything that met the second round of criteria that the village board passed was replaced. So anything that was not replaced did not meet the criteria that you approved.
Okay, so and then the next time that we go around, so we lessen the standards, but I'm just saying, and a contractor identified them as needing to be replaced at some point. So next time we go around geographically, those will be looked at again?
Yep, everything is looked at every year. We look at every sidewalk stone in the program, and we apply the criteria that the board approved. And if it meets the criteria for replace it, we replace it. If it meets criteria that allows it to be ground or shaved, then we use that process. If it meets neither of those criteria, then there's no action taken.
Okay. My only concern is we never had changed the criteria. We changed contractors, and they interpreted the criteria that we've always used. And it came out with a large amount of slabs needing to be replaced. We changed the criteria so that we'd have less slabs to be replaced because we didn't budget for them. But I just feel like somebody looked at it with fresh eyes, said they needed to be replaced based on our longstanding criteria. And I worry that by the time we get back to it without allocating additional funds, that there may be some problems, but thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, Tyler, would you like to take the roll?
Sure. Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Amenta?
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter?
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst?
Yes.
Trustee Ursink?
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand?
Aye.
President Roszak?
No,
Motion passes 6-1.
thank you. Our next item to consider is 9B, consider resolution 2021-11A, a resolution of appreciation for Ann Christensen. Tyler, would you like to, I don't know if you want to read it or if you just want to summarize it.
Well, I can say, both Rebecca and I greatly appreciate working with Ann. I've been with the village for almost 6 years, and working with Ann has been such a joy and pleasure. And I think we all know in the last year or so, the amount of work that she's had has just been extraordinary. And we just felt with the news that she would be accepting another position, we needed to at least do something to honor and recognize her achievements as the North Shore Health Director, and just thank her for that. So yeah, the resolution is in the packet, and we just wanted to take a moment to thank her for her time.
My understanding of why it is a resolution and not a proclamation, which we usually do recognitions by proclamation, is because the other North Shore communities also are adopting this same one, correct? Since we are part of it. Okay. And I just want to go on Tyler's, and then I'll turn it over to the board, that I also appreciate Director Christensen more than you can imagine. As we went through the COVID pandemic for the first time in history, I got to sit on the ICC with the other mayors of our Milwaukee County and village presidents, and we were briefed every 3 days for a couple of months, and even on the weekends. And Director Christensen was was appointed as the head of the task force. I don't remember what we called it, for Milwaukee County, and all the 11 public health directors participated. And so she did a fabulous job, and I just want to commend her for that. Trustee Carpenter, and then Trustee Stokebrand, and then Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. I think we are very lucky to have Director Christensen in the North Shore Health Department, and I even think we're very lucky to have our own health department here in the North Shore. But she's done an excellent job before and during this crisis. So I'm happy if we want, I can read the motion, or do you want to go through and have everyone speak? Oh, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Go ahead and read the motion if you'd like to make the motion. We can get a second, but I will let everyone else speak.
I move to approve resolution 2021-11, a resolution of appreciation for Ann Christensen.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Carpenter, second by trustee Warren. I can't remember who I said next. Okay, trustee Soper and then trustee Warren.
I just wondered, do you know how long she worked for the North Shore? Do we
Tyler?
know? I was just curious.
This February 2015, is that right?
Oh, okay. Thank
That
you.
was slightly longer than me, so that would make sense.
Thank you.
Trustee Warren?
I just wanted to echo some of the points and sentiments that have been made previously. Thank you to Director Christensen for all of her hard work, before and throughout the pandemic, and wishing her the best of luck in her new endeavors.
Thank you, trustee Warren. Trustee Bachworth?
Thank you. I as well. So I was on the board, first elected in 2013 when Director Christensen came aboard. And she's had quite a journey. And this last year has been very, very taxing for all of us and beyond, I mean, worldwide. So it's difficult when you are representing 7 different municipalities with different populations, needs and interests, and appetite for taxes. So I think she did an amazing job. I know that when 4 of us were really adamant about a mask mandate early on, she was instrumental in helping us with that. Also, I will say back in March of last year, when I wore a mask to a village board meeting, she was one of the people that was really supportive and on the side, encouraging of that kind of behavior. So I wish her the best of luck. I'm very grateful to, I think it was Glendale that originated this. Whichever municipality did, I guess I'd like to give them a shout out as well, because she's provided an invaluable service in a very difficult climate, not only just with the Shorewood Village, but beyond and in this pandemic. So wish her the best and look forward to what comes ahead.
Thank you, trustee Bachhorst. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we do have a motion and a second. Tyler, can you take the roll?
Trustee Ursing,
Yes.
trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
trustee Amenta,
Aye.
trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
President Rosette.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is 9C, consider authorization to hire DPW Administrative Assistant 2. Leanne.
Good evening. I'm gonna kick this off, but then probably hand it over to Tyler. Our current administrative assistant, Monica Merkel, is retiring after 24 years of service. We certainly thank you for all of her work. Outstanding customer service on a regular basis, and going to be very, very difficult to replace her, but a well-deserved retirement. So the position is currently structured at about 36 hours a week. That is full 8-hour shifts Monday through Thursday, and then a half day Friday. The DPW office is closed on Friday afternoons. The position performs multiple duties in support of our operations, including clerical and dispatch work for our crews and the department. We're looking to twofold, requesting that you provide authorization to rehire for this very critical position, and then also that it be elevated to a full-time 40-hour-a-week position. I think we certainly have work available, and I believe in the long term or short term, it'll be a more attractive position to an outside candidate if it's a full-time position with full-time benefits than a 36-hour-a-week position.
Thank you. Tyler, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, my follow-up comments, both Rebecca and I fully support going to 40 hours. Obviously, we also support hiring the position. We think adding the additional 4 hours of support with Leanne and Joel, especially in the afternoon for customer service and other projects is pretty vital, especially at this time. We also, from a fiscal impact perspective, it's taken Monica over 24 years to get to the rate that she's at. So more than likely, we'll be able to hire someone at a lesser rate. So if you're asking the question of how we would afford this with our current budget, the lesser rate will be able to make up the difference for the extended hours. So we feel pretty comfortable that we can take this our current budget.
So you're going to advertise at a lesser rate, at that lower in the range?
Yeah, we'll still provide the full rate, so at least applicants know what they can get as far like what that max would be when they're towards perhaps the end of their career, but by no means would we be hiring someone close to the max. This would be something that we would, of course, it would be based on their qualifications, but that would be something that we would work with for the budget. And then, I think the only other thing we wanted to mention is if, Monica, through her experience, has lots of questions, been able to address lots of questions, and if there's even potential that we could get a few days, to a week of some kind of, overlap. We don't know if we would be able to get that or not based on our process, but if we would, it'd be nice to do some kind of transition as far as cross training. So that person isn't just taking calls day one on the job without some kind of training. So that would be the other thing that we would be hoping to do with the position.
And is there any way to make a motion that says to not exceed the amount that we have budgeted for this position so that you can make those decisions?
Yep, you could. So in the recommended motion that I put in the memo, you can just add that at the end, and I think that would suffice.
Just so we ensure that what we adopted is what stands. Trustee Stokebrand?
Thank you. So was she not working? Some people these days work 36 hours and get full benefits. Was she not getting full benefits?
So she was getting benefits, everyone else full-time. It was just prorated slightly differently. So she was paying probably slightly higher premium rates on health insurance. We do that for anyone that's under 40 hours. Those premium rates are prorated based on the number of hours they work.
So what's the differential cost, I guess? I apologize.
That's factored into the memo that I reviewed with Mark. Sorry, I would have to go to that page. I have only one screen up right now.
By the time we get around, if you could get that information. Trustee Stokebrand, continue.
It's also so when does Monica, when is her last day? How much overlap are you? Did I in the memo?
I believe her last day is May 7th. So it's very tight.
So you're losing 2 longtime employees in May.
Yes, it's going to be a rough spring.
And I'm assuming that she also had a lot of vacation. 24 years, right?
Correct. She was maxed on vacation.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to make a financial decision without those numbers that Tyler's getting, right?
Yeah, it's up to 1,800. I also want to mention too on that number, you don't know what kind of health insurance or if the person even takes health insurance. So to try to forecast what someone would do with their health insurance is pretty hard to predict. But
1,800 was that benefits of Monica that were to the retiring person was 1,800 a month?
No, if you would add up the year, like if someone came on for 40 hours and took family health, that would be the cost difference. So it'd be up to 1,800.
So which,
But no, there's the potential that if we hire someone and they don't need health insurance, I mean, then it's going to show, some cost savings because the village isn't paying, those type of costs.
I think that the calculation in front of us should always be, if it was exactly the same, what is the cost differential between the benefits and the wage by going from 36 hours to 40 hours? Because you're asking us not to approve this year, but also future years. So anything in the future, I think that should be in front of us when we decide.
Yeah, I guess. And so I don't know, I would like to know what's the pay difference? I need to know to make a decision about a number, what the current employee is getting and what you plan to advertise this job at,
Exactly.
this new 40-hour-a-week job.
I think what Tyler has
And
said,
take into account the benefits package.
Well, I believe the memo indicates that at the current rate, if the administrative assistant went to 40 hours per week, there would be an additional $2,500.
So
that is stated in the memo. There would be no difference in the benefit package because the employee who's being prorated pays the difference, the percentage difference in the insurance. For a benefit reason, that would be a wash to the village.
but we're not prorating.
2,500 is per year or per month?
Okay, so prorating, let's just say, and I'm, if I work full-time, I pay 12% of 10% of the insurance. That's not correct, but just for mental math purposes. If I work 36 hours, or 35 hours, which is
More.
X percent, I pay 10% plus the percentage difference. So the village is made whole. So if you hire an employee at 40 hours, there's no difference to the village in the benefit package. That money is a wash.
There certainly is. And Tyler just told us what the difference was, because now the employee is not paying that difference because they're not prorating it. We pay the difference because it's
No,
hours.
no, I'm sorry, that if I don't work 40 hours, I pay 10% plus the percentage difference.
But the new employee that we're asking to, if we approve 40 hours, we pay the difference. I mean,
Okay.
Right? So it would
We'd be paying a little, if they took family health, we would be paying a little bit more. And then the trustee Stokerbrand's question though, that 2,500 that Leanne's mentioning in the memo, that's if we were to hire at the current rate for that position. We're not going to be doing that. Now when we advertise, we only advertise the range. We don't say we're going to hire this person at $20 an hour, for instance. That's part of the negotiating process. So to pinpoint an exact number is really difficult because we don't know through the negotiating process that number that we're going to land on. I'm giving you worst case, kind of the worst case scenario, which I don't think we're going to get at, but I'm just giving you that ballpark number so you know it's going to be within that range.
I understand, Tyler. I think with Trustee Stokebrand, and that's why I mentioned adding to the motion, but the part for us as legislators who are approving budget this year, you can tack onto the motion to say it won't exceed what we've already allocated. That makes staff have to give a lower salary than the top range of that range.
Right.
You can't exceed it for this year, but that might help. But in the future, if you may want to give the higher salary because in the range, because they're more qualified. They have 25 years experience. That's why you give the range. How do we know what you're going to be offering? Sometimes if you're saying we definitely won't give that top range, then in your head you're not going to. So why advertise it? What if they have all the experience in the world?
Right, that's a range. I'm just letting you know, that if you add in the motion that it needs to be within the budget, that's how we would do it.
So that provides some protections, Trustee Stokebrand, if you say then they can't offer the top of the range because they would exceed the budget. Does that help?
I just want to, so the wages would go up 2,500 annually. right? Is that an annual figure?
Yes.
Yes, but only if you hired at the exact rate that is currently being paid.
Because of the extra benefits amount?
No, I believe that's wages only.
Just so you know, Monica's like in the 90, she's like in the 80th, 90th percentile of the range.
Right,
So if for
okay.
some reason we were to hire someone in the 80th, 90th percentile, that's where that 2,500 number comes into play. Chances are we don't, so it's going to be less than that.
But with merit program, isn't it every year you would get a step in the range, or every few years?
Every 5 years,
Okay.
they'd be eligible for a bump. Yeah.
One of my big concerns is, you know, we talk about having to look at services and are there less services that we should be offering to keep in mind the budget and the tax rate? And, you know, now we're being asked to provide more. This is basically asking to provide more services. We're adding more services by keeping DPW open in the afternoon, or it was open already, but we had other staff covering it, or I'm sorry, I just didn't call in the afternoon. I think the phone was still answered, it just wasn't by Monica. Was there other staff? Or did the phone shut down?
Yeah, that's a good question. Leanne, do you want to address that?
The phone is not answered after, the office is closed at 11 on Fridays. So there's no door service, there's no phone service.
Okay, so we would be actually extending our services beyond what we're already doing, which at budget time, I think we had this discussion last year about, do we really want to try to expand services now? And so that's a concern I have. If we're having trouble
Understood.
meeting all the services that we are committed to right now, do we really want to add Friday afternoon service at the DPW?
I agree.
How long has it been since we've had no afternoon Friday service at the DPW?
I would say it's maybe been 5 years in that neighborhood. I would ask though that you consider that truly, I think the bigger issue here is our ability to recruit someone at 36 hours a week.
Understood.
I really think that's the bigger issue.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Sopran, anything further? Trustee Menta.
I was just confused as I thought that I was under the impression Fridays would still be closed, Friday afternoons. Are you saying that if we have a 40-hour week person, that the office will be open on Friday afternoons and the phones will be answered?
That would be my expectation.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, this conversation in general, I mean, we don't know who it is that is going to apply. We don't know what their salary offer will be. We don't know what they're going to ask for in terms of healthcare. So there's no real answer to any of these questions. And, you know, Leanne has a budget that she manages. And if it looks like the replacement for the administrative assistant is going to cost a couple thousand more, maybe she'll find a way to reduce overtime or whatever. That's her job as a department head. And I don't think we need to get into this kind of detailed discussion at this time. And I'll make the motion, whatever it is.
You want me to wait for you?
Oh, hold on. I have to get to that point in the.
When you make the motion, if you would consider adding at the end, you know, not to exceed current budget for this year.
Well, what about next year? So, you know, so might not exceed it this year. It's only going to be for part of the year. There may be a budget problem next year, but there's just so many uncertainties that we're talking about here that I'm not.
That's fine. We just have this budget adopted and next year's isn't adopted yet.
I'm going to move to authorize staff to hire for the administrative assistant 2 position in Public Works.
Second.
I'll make an amendment in a few minutes. Trustee Menta moved. Trustee Ursink seconded. I do have a question before I make it. Trustee Bockhorst.
Yeah, thank you. So just prior to this meeting, in the DPW meeting, we were talking about the electrician position and the difficulty in filling that, and the probably very difficult position that will put us in budgetarily, given that the hourly rate going out for replacement staff is pretty high. And so I appreciate the work that Miss Monica Merkel has put in over these years. Fun fact, many of you might not know this, but Leanne, after she was assistant village manager, if I'm not mistaken, was at the DPW a part-time or 3/4 of a time. And that position gradually moved to a full-time position. The needs of the and the services that this village require and expect, I think we all feel this. We hear about this. We've heard about it with the snow plowing. We've heard about it with a variety of things. And so I appreciate and I'm going to support the motion as stated, and look to fund this position and allow Leanne to run her department. And so anyway, I appreciate the conversation, but I'm ready to vote as well. I'm ready to vote in the affirmative on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question that I would like to ask you. I'm not calling, so please don't call the question before, if you would respect that I have a question as well. Trustee Carpenter.
I just had sort of a not super important, but just a clarifying question. How come this is called the administrative assistant 2? Is there another administrative assistant, or just wondering in the job title why that is?
Like level?
Yeah, I can answer that. We have 2 in the pay range of the HR manual. We actually, I think there was 3 different levels of administrative assistant. I don't have the background since that was done before my time, but our customer service associates at Village Hall kind of make up the first line, and then several of our admin assistants are on the second line, including this position. So it just identifies, and there's a slight difference in some of their job responsibilities. So that's why.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I'm ready to vote after the last question is asked. Thank you.
Thanks. I do have a question about this same exact thing. Did is it Merkel? I apologize if I got that wrong, but did she start as a 1 and then gradually over 24 years move into the position of a 2? Yes. So why are we not considering hiring at the range of an administrative assistant 1?
Because at the time she was a 1, there were 2 clerical staff serving the Department of Public Works, and she's served in a 20-hour-a-week position. There was a 20-hour-a-week and a 40-hour-a-week. So the 20-hour-a-week was a 1 when she moved into the other position. Then she became a 2.
Okay, so the 20-hour-a-week position has been eliminated.
That is correct.
Okay, and it's okay. So we have 1 position. I am going to make an amendment and see if or propose one. 2 reasons. First, we adopted a budget this year that has a certain salary line, and I know there are departments that have gone over their salary lines and some that have gone down, and I know it's hard to manage in times like COVID especially, and so I'm not slighting that our managers are doing a great job, because they are, but I do want to ensure that staff, the board gives direction to the staff of whether or not we would, approve them going over budget, because if someone comes in and applies for a 40-hour-a-week job, and they have 20 years of experience in the city of Milwaukee, they would typically, it's going to be a hard thing for staff to say they shouldn't get the top of the range. So, but for our purposes, we did adopt a budget for 2021, and I would like to stick within that range. So I would like to propose an amendment that tacks on the words to the motion. Tyler, can you help me here?
I think you're trying to propose an amendment for staff to hire the position within the approved 2021 budget.
Not exceed, yeah, whatever range,
Okay.
Not exceed the 2021 budget allocated to the department for wages and benefits, or whatever it is, whatever that means. Do you want to state what that amendment says so that the board can then either second it or not?
You want me to reread what I have written down? Yes. I said President Rosick proposed an amendment for staff to hire the position to not exceed the approved 2021 budget.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
So just President Rosick proposes an amendment, Trustee Stokbrand seconds. I also just want to say that I am going to vote no. And the reason is I do agree with Trustee Stokbrand in the sense that we did have this discussion during budget season. I would like, I feel like expanding services at this time, especially at the administrative level, is not particularly something that I would support. That if we were going to expand services in DPW, I would like to have that discussion during budget season, and actually look at our scope of services and see which positions it made the most sense and have the board weigh in on that with a comprehensive view. So at this time, I'll vote no. I would vote yes if it comes back and it fails and someone wants to make the motion. I would vote yes on the 36-hour position. And I do believe that in times of COVID, people are looking for jobs, and I personally do not think it would hinder a recruitment. So that is that. Trustee Bockhorst.
Thank you. I can say, President Rozek, that I would like to agree with what you're stating, but being in the Public Works Committee, and Trustee Warren can, as the chair, and Trustee Stokebrand also in that committee, we have heard firsthand from Leanne on the difficulty to secure and obtain quality workforce during these times, even though it is COVID. And as you said, certain jobs are not going, aren't as coveted, let's just say. So it's a different time, and I want to be able to address the Director Vucelik is working directly and trying to actively recruit for a variety of positions. And I wouldn't want us to squabble over 4 hours here and prevent that position from being filled. And I wouldn't want to use more senior staff time, which I did believe the memo had mentioned that a lot of those administrative duties are taken on by others. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, but I believe that's what the memo had also mentioned. So I'm going to vote no on the amendment, but support yes, the original motion. And I will say this again, and we did mention this in committee, a lot of jobs, especially in the government jobs, aren't exactly, there are a lot of municipalities, in the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, we discussed this as well. It's very difficult in these times to fill a lot of these positions, believe it or not. So I'm counting on her to use her best judgment, and also to, if 4 hours, we're talking a 4 hour, what was it, $2,500 difference in potentially. So, and I understand there's uncertainties, but there's a lot of uncertainties in life, especially, we're in a pandemic as well. And I want to make sure that we have the quality staff that is needed to run this department. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bockhorst. Trustee Warren.
Just trying to formulate my thoughts here. Yeah, I think I'm thinking that at this point I'm supportive of both. I think that staying within budget, I'm fine with that amendment, but I also do support going up to 40 hours a week. We've heard firsthand from Leanne at the committee level how difficult it is to make some of these hires. So making it more attractive by going from 36 to 40 seems like a reasonable approach to me. And plus we'll have the additional benefit of keeping DPW open on Friday afternoon. So I'm supportive of both pieces of this and hope it moves forward.
Thank you, Trustee Warren. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll take a vote on the amendment.
Okay. Trustee Carpenter?
Can you reread the amendment?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So I have President Rozek propose an amendment for staff to hire the position not to exceed the approved 2021 budget.
Aye.
Okay. Trustee Stokebrand?
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst?
No.
Trustee Amenta?
No.
Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Ursink?
No.
President Rozek?
Aye.
Amendment passes 4-3.
And now would you like to read the amended motion?
Yes, I would be happy to. So that would mean I have a motion to authorize staff to hire for the Administrative Assistant 2 position in the Public Works to not exceed the approved 2021 budget.
Okay, go ahead and take the roll.
Okay. Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Ursink?
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter?
Aye.
Trustee Amenta?
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst?
Yes.
Trustee Stokebrand?
Aye.
President Rozek?
No.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you. All right, we can now move on to item number, are we all done? Yes, so we are moving on to number 10, reports of village officials. At this time, I will save my reports for the next meeting, so I do not have one for this meeting. Village trustees, does anyone have a report they'd like to give tonight? Okay, seeing none. Village manager or Tyler?
No report.
All right, so we will now move on to items for future consideration. Does anyone have items, because we have none listed? Trustee Amenta.
Yeah, I sent out an email earlier today because I have been looking at the comprehensive plan that I believe we're scheduled to discuss at our next meeting. And, you know, there's a lot in there. My initial understanding was it was just going to kind of take our existing plans and sort of, you know, gussy them up and repackage them. But there's a lot of it's a vision document, but there's quite a lot in there. And I've also been getting some feedback from plan commissioners. And I just feel like it would benefit both the plan commission and the board if we had a meeting, just like a discussion where we could ask, the plan commission could let us know what their issues are. We could ask questions about it before we consider it at our next meeting. Well, of course, we can only, so anyway, because I personally, I mean, I don't think I have the time to watch, you know, 4 to 8 hours of plan commission meetings and discussions on this, on the video. So, and I think in addition, there's been sort of 2 opportunities for the public to look at this and comment on it, one of which was held on St. Patrick's Day, and there were not a lot of people on the phone call, especially people who are not either board members or plan commissioners. So I feel like if we were to have a discussion sometime before April 19th, that would be you know, an additional opportunity for the public to have a chance to understand what the comprehensive plan is saying and what it's about and why it's important, and to ask questions. So I would ask that we, you know, try to just find an evening and schedule a Zoom and have a conversation. But
I would ask to make a motion and see if the board would like to do that, but it is a future agenda item, but again, I would make the motion with a date involved, so we don't, it doesn't sit, if it passes, we don't sit there on a future agenda items and then the time elapses by the time we get to it. So I would.
Well, how about next Mondays? You know, let's say next Monday at 7:30. So I'll make a motion for next Monday at 7:30 to have a joint meeting of the village board and the plan commission to have just general conversation, question and answer on the comprehensive plan.
I want to second that, and I just want to ask for a friendly amendment. Could you say before a certain date, schedule it before April 19th?
I said Monday, April 12th.
I'm just saying you're being very specific with the date. And if that didn't work,
I thought you said you wanted a specific date.
So I'm asking, maybe you just make it broad, like schedule a joint meeting with the board and the plan commission before April, the next board meeting. So in other words, so you have some flexibility in that week, just in case that Monday didn't work.
Okay, fine. But so to schedule a meeting, a joint meeting with the plan commission and the board the week of April 12th at, you know, do a Google poll and doodle poll and figure out when most people can meet.
And I will second that. And just a comment of why I do believe we've done that before, especially with CDA when we have big planning initiatives. We do have joint conversations and before it gets to the board level, and it's been very helpful in the past when I was on the board. This is our comprehensive plan, and although I'd like to see it adopted, and there's a chance that it won't be before my term ends, I'm willing to risk that because I do believe, I believe in comprehensive planning. It is the one thing that gives direction to your village as a whole for the future. And there is a lot in there, and I'm very proud of the plan commissioners and the public for their participation and their time that they've invested. And I think they deserve that respect as well, so that we can hear the discussion that they had, the summary, and some of the points that they, you know, either discarded or move forward for our consideration. And one meeting I don't think is going to do it at the board as well. So, Trustee Ursing. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I think Trustee Bachhorst had her hand up before mine.
Okay.
Oh,
It's okay. All right.
Gotcha.
I just, are we moving off this topic? I just wanted to bring up another.
No,
we haven't voted yet.
Nope. Sorry then.
Okay, Trustee Bachhorst.
thank you. So I agree with Trustee Menta. I was on that call. I think there were 21 or 22 people, including the planning commissioners, a couple of us trustees, a couple of staff members. I'm talking about the community engagement 1 hour presentation that we all received postcards for across the entire village. I would like to say that it's a big decision. I'm grateful that the Planning Commission has undertaken this charge. I'm grateful that this is something that's being brought before us. I would say that I think that, yes, we should have an opportunity as a board to speak with the Planning Commission and go over this in finer detail, since it is our comprehensive plan up until 2050, and it is a big deal. We did have a consultant, there are other people involved. I do also want to say that it's not really fair, though, to schedule a special meeting. It's a very busy time of year for a lot of us. This is something that's out of the blue. It's something that could be, in fact, covered during the cow, perhaps on that night, so that we have an opportunity at least to look over stuff, digest it before we do take a vote on the 21st or not. But I would say an additional meeting for this board on something like this, and then also arranging to get the Planning Commission together within a week. I'm not sure that that's fair to the public and fair to all the people in the stakeholders as well as staff. It's something that they need. So I would move to amend that motion. If we were to have that, I would move to amend it to, I'll amend it now, to have the meeting during either in the cow or as a special presentation at the next board meeting.
So there's
in lieu of next week.
There's an amendment on the table. Is there a second? Okay, seeing none, the amendment fails.
A second. Sorry, I'm second.
All right. So there's an amendment and a second. Thank you. We will move on for further discussion. Trustee Carpenter and then Trustee Stokebrand.
I just want to understand, because I believe that the comprehensive plan has to be approved based on the timeline of April 19th. So if we're having discussion on April 19th, that doesn't really give us any time to also approve and move forward on the 19th.
You mean make changes?
So if we had a meeting next week, that would give us at least some time to make potential changes.
Trustee Stokebrand, can you address that? If not, I'll ask Tyler. I know that you were at the last two meetings as the chair.
Right, as a liaison on the Plan Commission, I would reiterate too that I think it's important to get public input. We have tried to do that, and for whatever reason, input has not been what perhaps we had hoped it would be, and it is an important document. It seems to me that the deadline before, it was supposed to be January 1, and then with COVID, I think the understanding with the state was just that if they saw we were making good progress, and clearly we're to the point where we're going to, bring it before the village board, we are very close to having a final product. I don't think Bart is on the call, and I don't know if Tyler has details on if we can extend this into May or not. The question, I guess, is, are we all going to read this? It's like over 100-page document by next Monday, that we need a commitment from the village board to be able to do that, to have an intelligent discussion about it. My understanding was that, maybe Tyler knows more about the agenda for the 19th, but I was under the impression that the police public safety committee was going to have an extensive committee meeting at 6 o'clock on the complaint process. So I guess my preference would be, do we want to push that off then? To me, it becomes, I don't know. But, if you don't give people enough time to let them know that this meeting is coming, then do you really expect more participation?
Yeah, it's like the mask meeting. Special meetings get called all the time.
I'm sorry, I guess I had more questions than answers.
Yeah. you have anything else? And then I can go to Bart for maybe an answer. No. Okay, Bart.
Yeah, I just want to weigh in with respect to the deadline to pass the plan. That really is kind of self-imposed or described. If we don't have an adopted comprehensive plan, there's certain actions that we can't take until that plan is adopted. So the current plan did technically expire already this January. So between that expiration and when we adopt the next plan, we can't pursue any zoning or ordinance changes because we don't have a comprehensive plan to wage those against. So it is scheduled for a public hearing on April 19th, but there is not necessarily a requirement that the board adopt the plan on the 19th. If there were changes, those changes would actually need to go back to the Plan Commission for re-review and re-recommendation. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not necessarily required that we adopt it on the 19th. That was the current timeline that this Plan Commission was working with to get it to the board on the 19th. But if for whatever reason, more time was required, or if you wanted to adopt the 19th, that's really the board's decision.
Is there enough time, I guess is the question. If you had the meeting next Monday, you have public hearing the following week. That's enough time for you to make changes, if there are any?
We actually cannot make changes to the current draft plan. The Plan Commission recommended the version as is. So what we can do is we can discuss the plan, and if there's changes to be made, we would have to document those changes and ask the Plan Commission to reconsider the plan with those changes. So
differently, I'm sorry. So if the board and the Plan Commission are having a discussion, doesn't mean the recommendation from the Plan Commission changes. It's just the board's getting more of a discussion so that when it gets there on the whatever the following Monday, that is when the changes can occur at the board level, correct? Before the public.
I had asked Nathan to confirm that, but my understanding is no. The Plan Commission drafts the plan. So per state statute, the Plan Commission recommends a drafted plan for the board's consideration. If the board wanted to change anything within that plan substantively, they would have to, make a motion to re-ask the Plan Commission to make that change. So Nathan, I know that we've discussed this. So if you want to clarify anything I just mentioned.
Yeah, it's basically the proverbial thumbs up or thumbs down on the plan. And the reason for that, if you look at the statute, is that there's a public notification process and a series of public meetings that are required under the statutory framework that allows participants, the community, to come to those meetings and say, okay, now I understand this is what's being proposed, this is what's being analyzed. So there's not essentially a bait and switch at the very end, and then somebody could say, well, gee, I didn't understand that was part of the public process. I voted for apples and we got oranges. So that's kind of how the process works, is the Plan Commission works through it. And then they present it to the board, and the board gives the old proverbial thumbs up or thumbs down. And if they say, no, we can't approve this, you can have a discussion and send it back to committee, essentially send it back to the Plan Commission. And then they can make amendments pursuant to the changes that are requested by the board. And then we'll have the additional required notifications and public hearings, and then it'll come back to the board.
Thank you. All the more reason of why I would support the original motion, because if there are, just like in this TIF policy, when we discussed with CDA, there were changes that were suggested and we sent it back to committee, which went back to CDA. Our timeline wasn't significantly altered. So if we did have a special meeting and there were significant changes, rather than waiting until the following Monday, we don't have to schedule it for that Monday, the public hearing. We could send it back to Plan Commission, and it might push it back only 2 weeks rather than a whole month.
Well, if you had that special meeting, I think it would have to be an update only, with an information flow from the
I don't think you heard me, but
from the Plan Commission to the board, because we've already.
You could very well send it back to Plan Commission and cancel the 16th and then schedule it for the following 2 weeks if there were changes that the board had identified at the special meeting.
Ooh.
That's what we did with CDA. So anyways, thank you.
President Rozak?
Yes, Trustee Bockhorst.
Thank you. So there is a very big difference between this and what we adopted with the CDA. So that was a policy, and this is a comprehensive plan designed by state statute. So if we are going to hold another meeting, I think it would be incumbent upon this board to recognize that we want to ensure that the trustees here can be in attendance and not just 4. And I don't know everyone else's schedule, but I do not have it in my calendar to be available next Monday. And of those trustees that are guaranteed to be on this board after the election, I would think that you'd want to at least ensure they're there. I understand that there's an appetite, and I have no problem if we do this on during our board meeting or during the cow, just so we can get additional clarification, because I have questions. I have read this. I printed it out, unfortunately, in the full PowerPoint presentation, so it took over 200 and some pages and a bunch of ink, but this is something that is important. And I've worked on a lot of plans in this village. This is not something that we want to rush through based on unnecessary urgency. I'm going to repeat, unnecessary urgency does not often result in very good decision-making. So if this board is serious about a comprehensive plan that meets the needs of all residents and listens to all voices, then I think that it behooves us to ensure that all voices, meaning those of us that are elected here, are able to be represented in that question and answer session. The public meeting that I attended a couple of weeks back from the Planning Commission, Public Information, the PIM, was pretty much a one-sided meeting. There were a couple of question opportunities, but it really was not the detail that this board commands. So I am all in favor for an additional discussion, but I do say, make it transparent and make it fair, guys. Make it during a time when we're all planning on being there.
Okay, thank you so much. Could you read the original motion? I don't believe it said Monday. Can you read it back to us and then the amendment, and then we can take a vote on the amendment?
Yes. So I have the original motion was to consider meeting with the Plan Commission to go through the comprehensive plan. Oh, sorry, that's wrong line. Move for the week of Monday, April 12th at 7:30 to have a joint meeting of the Village Board and Plan Commission on the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And then we had an amendment for the motion to occur during a future committee of the whole, with some, I think the emphasis was on the April 19th. Is that correct, Trustee Bockhorst?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I mean, I guess it could go beyond that, but I would say no sooner than April 19th.
Okay. So the amendment reads, because we did have an amendment.
I'm fine with April 19th then.
Yeah, so right now I have it as April 19th, but that was a question mark that I had that I think I wanted clarified, so that helps. Thank you.
Okay, so go ahead and read the amendment and we will take a vote.
Okay. So the amendment to the motion is for it to occur during a future committee of the whole during the April 19th meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
No.
Trustee Carpenter.
No.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
President Rozek.
No.
Okay. The amendment passes 4-3. So you would like me probably to read the new motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the new motion would read for the village board to have a joint meeting with the Plan Commission on the comprehensive plan during a future committee of the whole during the April 19th meeting.
And thank you. Any further discussion, because I have a comment. Trustee Stokebrand.
So this means that the Public Safety Committee cannot.
Yeah, that's correct. We would have to defer that, which I do know. I was talking with both Chief Nimmer and Rebecca on that. I know there's some items that they were ready to bring forward, but if you as a board approve this, that as well as JP&L we had lined up for open records. So those are the two things that Rebecca has in her notes right now is on committee agendas.
So we wouldn't do open records at JP&L, and we would not do police complaints at the Public Safety Committee.
Correct. We would have the whole hour and a half for the committee of the whole to talk about the comprehensive plan.
And if this motion failed, we would go back to having a public hearing on the comprehensive plan just as part of the regular budget, I'm sorry, the regular board meeting.
Unless
That's-
there's a different
That's
motion,
correct.
unless someone made an additional motion after it. Correct.
You know, can I just say, I'm not sure that, you know, as an item of future agenda, since this was not agendized to begin with, that we can actually take action on this.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you elaborate?
Generally, we make a motion to have an item for future agenda and we say yes, and we all vote on it, and then it gets placed on an agenda. But we're acting as if this was on the agenda, but this wasn't on the agenda.
We've done this before. We've actually in future agenda, just to clarify, in future agenda items, we have actually assigned it to a committee. And you know, said we would like HRC to look at blah, blah, blah. This is the only area in which the board can do that, because it does, then it just places the item on a future agenda with a date and a committee. So we have done it before. There is precedent. However, I understand your point.
I mean, you know, there are many things going on at the same time. That we have an important police study. We had a DPW study that we seem to just ignore now and change positions and add things and change things without consulting the DPW study at all. We have serious issues and expenses probably every day. There's money going out the door on open records and how we handle open records requests. So, you know, there's more than one thing going on at one time. We expect staff to be able to handle. I'm sure Tyler probably has about 5 or 10 items on his desk that he's dealing with every single day. The fact that, you know, if people don't have the time to set aside, you know, an hour and a half to talk about so we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, but that's apparently what the vote was. So I'm going to vote no, because open records and the police study are important. I find it very disappointing that people don't seem to have the ability to respond on important things like our manager's evaluation. I find it very disappointing that people don't seem to have the time to set aside an hour and a half to get together with the plan commission and understand what it is that they're trying to communicate. But anyway, that's my own issues, and I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more comment, Trustee Bachhorst, and then we'll go ahead and vote on the amendment.
So I hear the frustration of Trustee Amenta. I too am frustrated that we would have a surprise meeting on something so important, just without another option going forward. So I guess I would amend. Could I make an amendment at this point, Tyler? Because what I would do is say, since it sounds like we have a lot of interest in meeting as a board on this, and it's something very important, we could always move this out to the future. We could say the next board meeting or thereafter, so that it gives, we're also assuming that the planning commission can get together on a very short notice next week. We're making a lot of assumptions.
If you'd like to propose an amendment, you're allowed to propose an amendment.
Sure. So I would move that we have a joint meeting with the village board and the planning commission at one of the next already scheduled available meetings, whether it be the April 19th meeting or one of the subsequent, because I get your frustration. I'm in both public works and public safety. We're working very hard on both of those things, and you don't want to discount the work that we're doing there. But again, this is
before further discussion. Do we have a second?
What was what are you asking him to second though, first off? Did I finish my motion?
Yes, you did. Can you please read back the motion, Tyler, the amendment?
So I have the new amended motion that trustee, I'm sorry, just for point of clarification, are you asking what I wrote for trustee Bachhorst's amendment, or are you asking for what the current amendment that has been approved is?
Nope, just the proposed amendment that was just uttered by trustee Bachhorst.
Got it. Okay. So I have that to read, that trustee Bachhorst moves to amend the motion to read at the April 19th meeting or a future meeting.
Scheduled meeting. Is that correct, trustee Bachhorst? Yes. Okay. Do I have a second? Seeing none, we will then take a vote on the proposed motion as amended or not. I can't remember.
Yeah, the original, the first amendment did pass. So the new motion would read for the village board to have a joint meeting with the plan commission to discuss the comprehensive plan during the April 19th meeting, committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, go ahead and take the roll.
Okay. Trustee Amenta,
No.
trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
trustee Backhorst,
Yes.
trustee Stokebrand,
No.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Ursink,
Yes.
President Rozak.
No.
Motion passes 4-3.
Okay, please let Rebecca know to change the agenda for next time, and we'll discuss it in the agenda meeting. Any other future agenda items, trustee Ursink?
Yes, so I just wanted to see if we could get an update or some, an update from the Shorewood Police Department about the vandalism at Cloud Red, if they have anything. So maybe if there is any updates, they could share them at one of our next meetings. That'd be great.
Great. I don't think we need a motion for that, it's just a request. So thank you.
Just a point of clarification, that could just be through like the Friday update that chief provides to the board, or do you want that update at a village board meeting, trustee Ursink?
I think that, the Friday memo would probably be appropriate, but if there was a larger discussion on this, if the other trustees felt like there could be a larger discussion, then I would.
We could do it through the village manager update then?
Yep.
Yeah.
If that was the case, okay, I'll definitely make note of that.
Okay, I don't think that needs a motion for now. Okay, anything else? All right, seeing none, before we adjourn, we do have a closed session, so we can't adjourn yet, but I would request, Tyler, that you text me the meeting information
Okay.
that was sent in the emails, so I can get on there. And other than that, I need a motion to go into closed session.
I move to adjourn. Oh, sorry.
Trustee Backhorst, did you have a question or?
Oh,
No?
I was just going to say I won't see you in closed session, but thank you. I'll send my comments directly to Rebecca.
That's not appropriate. So if you'd like to send your comments, then please send them to Trustee Carpenter, who will be compiling with myself, like we did last year, the review to give to Rebecca. So thank you. Trustee Stokebrand.
Yeah, could we just take a 10-minute break before we, is that okay, or 5?
Let's do a 5-minute break at going from the time that we the motion is made and seconded, and roll call. Trustee Warren.
I'll move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985 1C to discuss the annual performance evaluation of the village manager.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Tyler, go ahead and take the roll.
Trustee Backhorst,
Yes.
trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Ursink,
Aye.
trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
trustee Amenta,
Aye.
President Rozak.
Yes, with the caveat that the minutes reflect we will be executing that motion at 9:47.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.